Alright guys, this is going to be a long one, and it's going to be difficult for some of you to hear. So I strongly advise, get yourself a drink before you start. And if you smoke, have your burnable handy. You might need it. I'll wait. Oh wait, you can use the pause button. Never mind. So fanboys, haters, and as the subtitle suggests, blind devotion versus culture of hate. I've been called both. I've been called a fanboy. I've been called a hater. And in the gaming community, and especially on the internet, that's like a huge thing. Oh, fuck. Ooh, okay, alright. Start by telling you a brief history of my background in gaming. The first console I ever played was an Atari 2600 when they were still relatively new. The first console my family ever owned was a ColecoVision when they were relatively new. Everyone in my family had one, except for my grandma and grandpa who had an Atari. So right away, there was elitism right there. Now, granted, they weren't like, "Ugh, Atari rules, ColecoVision sucks." No, we liked different games. We bought the games that we liked. There were games that were great, there were games that sucked, there were games you didn't know what the fuck was going on, and no one in my family were like, fucking television, because it's like, right? And television is pretty cool if you like it, but I didn't play one of those until like 1990, and I was like, yeah, this was not worth the wait. Um, and then I got a Nintendo. I started playing Nintendo pretty much as soon as it came out. Didn't get one until '89 when I really appreciated it. I completely skipped the 16-bit generation for a lot of different reasons, not the least of which was I just wasn't interested. I didn't see the point. And at the time, because at that point I was getting the music, so music was a higher priority. And then when the PlayStation came out, I jumped right back on the boat and kept going. So let's recap. Atari, ColecoVision, Nintendo, skipped 16-bit. Then I went to Sony PlayStation, the first one, and then I bought a PS2 right after about a year after they came out. Along the way, I did have an N64 somewhere in there. Um, um, I had the PS2, and then when Ninja Gaiden was announced for the original Xbox, I was like, well, I have to get one of those now. So I did, and later a 360 because of some of the features that it had, and honestly the price point at that point. Um, Stayed with the 360 for, and again it was about a year after the 360 came out, and I stuck with it until last year. So it was like '06 until 2013. So that's most of its run, and turned it in, got rid of it, and got a PS4 and a PS3. And the only reason I hadn't gotten a PS3 up to that point was that I was very particular about the Blu-ray player functionality. I have a 7.1 surround system that supports analog inputs, meaning each channel gets its own input. So I was very keen on that sort of thing. I was a little too particular about that at that point. Um, but at any rate, that's why I went with a Blu-ray player at the time. In retrospect, I probably should have just dropped the coin on a PS3. I really wish I had. But that is what it is. Once in a while, I'd talk shit to my buddies I had a PS3 for whatever reason. But I'll be honest, I didn't really know what I was talking about. And, it is, again, it is what it is. But even then, you go back as far as like the 16-bit era and stuff, there was always someone saying, "Oh, this sucks, this rules." I can look at every single console. Like right now, I'm staring at what I own. I have an Atari 2600 over here, a Nintendo, a Super Nintendo, a Genesis, a Dreamcast, GameCube with the Game Boy player, PS2, PS3, PS4. I don't think I'm missing anything. And I got a PC, which I don't really game on. So, and a tablet, the Vita, and my phone, all of which are gaming capable devices. All right, I don't really pick sides too much. I I will buy a 360 when they come down in price again, because there are certain games I own digitally that I'd like to be able to play again. No matter what I may think about Microsoft now, the Xbox 360 was a really, really good choice if you're a gamer. Still is. Never going to say a bad word about it. And there is this culture, and not just in gaming, but I'm going to try and stick at the gaming, of when you buy something in a consumer or capitalist culture, that you want to somehow justify the security and validity of your purchase point. And I mean, I understand it, but I do not condone it. A lot of it comes to down to envy or, again, insecurity. I don't know, and it drives me nuts. When you look at like look at like the blind fanboys, and because almost all hatred comes from first being a fan of something else and feeling like you have to attack the other side. So let's look at that first. A blind devotion. You have a console, and there's certain games that draw you to it, or a feature set, or a perceived lack thereof on the other side, so you get the other one sometimes by proxy. But then you latch onto it because you feel insecure about it or whatever. And, I don't understand how you can get to a point where you just stop using all logic and reason. I've said before, I'll never buy an Xbox One as of now. Like, as of now, I am 99.9% sure I'll never own one. Because I can't justify it. There's no game out there that is worth the trade-off. For me, having the Kinect bundled is not a huge deal. I really don't care if the NSA spies on me for various reasons. I just don't care. I don't care. My issue with Microsoft and the Xbox comes from their militant and aggressive advertising schemes, the UI being laid out the way that it is, the fact that the functionality you get for that trade-off just isn't enough to warrant anything. I don't use cable television, so that feature isn't going to appeal to me. Skype, I can do with this thing reliably. I have no need for it. And I don't fully understand people that do get it, but if they're happy with it, power to them, no problem. No problem at all. It's for a different type of person. A different type of consumer is going to buy that console, and they're going to be happy with it. PS4, arguably, is for a more hardcore gamer, in as much as they're going to usually play a more varied game type. Whereas it seems like 360 and Xbox One folks, they tend to be shooter fans for the most part. And I know that's not true across the board. I'm not going to sit here and make generalizations, because then I'd be guilty of the stuff I'm trying to rally against here. I'm just saying that, by and large, most of your Microsoft console owners tend to like certain types of mainstream games, whether it's sports or shooting, something competitive, something, by nature is more social. And in many ways, a Sony console owner is usually someone who likes to play more by themselves. A lot of the time. Not always true, but I've noticed it sometimes as a trend. But somewhere along the lines, because I like this certain way of thinking, or this part of the gaming culture, and this guy over here has a different console, and it's a different type of gaming culture, obviously they're going to butt heads all the time. Because a lot of times, like, you look at it like, if you step back and take a closer look, it seems sometimes like Sony console fans are the nerds, and the Microsoft console fans are the jocks sometimes. It's fun to watch, but it's not that much fun to participate in, and it drives me insane. Because, like I said before, I've been called a fanboy, and in some cases an apologist. Like some of you guys had mentioned in my review of Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes, that maybe I was being a little soft on the game, and maybe I was, because I'm trying to be fair and just not succumb to. I just get tired of that angry, you know, rhetoric that so many people want to throw out there. Ultimately, it's just a friend of mine. If a friend of mine bought the Xbox One and said Titanfall is awesome, I'd be like, good. I'm not buying one. But I'm also known within my circle of friends, if I get something I'm really enthusiastic about, I will sell them on the idea of getting it. Not because what they have sucks, but if I know someone is a certain type of gamer, and I see them looking to get a console that doesn't really fit the mold of what they're doing, it's just more of the same, or like a lot of my buddies that have 360s are probably better suited for the PS4 crowd, just by virtue of the type of games they like to play and the functionality that they're looking for. Like me, they don't use cable television, they don't use Skype that much. Or if they do, they have a different device they want to use for it. And it just doesn't, again, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So I'll tell them why I like it, why I don't like it, whatever. You know. But I would never tell them, oh, you're an idiot, blah, 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 blah. So if I can't say that to a friend of mine, how could I possibly say that to a complete stranger? And what do you gain from that? You know, I'm not winning points from Sony for preferring their product. You know, I'm a member of the MVP program. I'm an ambassador to their brand, but, I mean, don't get me wrong, it has its perks, but nothing that justifies lying to anyone. And I don't. I tell the truth. When Sony fumbles, I say so. When I think they're taking too long, I say so. Do I do it reasonably with logic and compassion? Yeah. It's because I try to be a reasonable, logical, and compassionate person. I don't want to just jump to conclusions and all this other bullshit that people fall into. At the end of the day, a console is just highly compressed sand, silicon, and plastic and metal that you run electricity through, and it creates an image you see on a screen. That's all it is. It's a product. It's a thing. A huge electromagnetic pulse goes off, they're all worthless paperweights. Why are you being loyal to a paperweight? What's the point? You know, they say you can't take it with you. At the end of the, you amass these huge video game collections or whatever, and you die, you don't get to play those games in the afterlife, if there even is one. Think about that for a second while I take a drink. You can't take any of this with you. And at the end of it, you don't get points as to who you were or were not with. All the jokes in the world, Microsoft employees are not going to be in hell, and Sony employees in heaven, or vice versa. And fuck you if you're thinking it. At the end of the day, Sony and Microsoft are companies that are out to make money. I could argue, in my opinion, that one company tends to understand their fan base better and is better overall in customer service to them. And my opinion has swayed from side to side a couple different times. There was a very brief period that I felt that Microsoft was superior customer service. And for a while they were. Very briefly, about a year. Because they released this shitty product that was failing left and right, and they just didn't. They're like, fuck it, we'll replace them. Don't worry about it, we'll replace them. Because they knew this was a big deal. I went through like 7 fucking Xbox 360s. 7. If not more. Never paid a dime for any of the replacements, thank goodness. And then when I upgraded to the 360S, which was the latest model they put out, never had any problems after that. So, you know, it is what it is. PS3, never had an issue. Not once. And mine was used to begin with. And it was dusty. It had seen some use. Never had a problem. PS4, never had a problem. NES, I had one, and until I bought this one. Haven't had a problem. Super Nintendo, I've only owned 2. And the only reason I've owned 2 is because I bought a regular one, and I wanted a mini. So I bought the mini and sold the old one. I mean, it's just one of these things where these people sell you a product, and they make software that runs on their hardware, and everyone's out to make money, and it's just like, if you enjoy something, you should be celebrating the joy that you have in sharing it with others, like we do in our little community here. We share the joy and the disappointments and the love and the hate that we have, but we're reasonable people. I like to think, by and large, all 300 plus of you guys at the time of this recording that I've interacted with are wonderful people. You know, people will rib me and josh me here and there, but it's all in good fun. You know, and that's great. But again, just like you won't win any points for being loyal to a company like that, you don't win any points by being negative either. There's no troll heaven. There's no troll hell. Like, if you're going to troll somebody over something, what are you really getting out of it? I mean, if you're fapping to this at home, if you're a troll person and you fap when you troll, hey, you know what? There's better ways to get that jolly. Just saying. If you want to belittle people, there's plenty better ways to do it than on the internet. And if you're anonymous, like, no one will ever know. You know, and this whole thing of like, oh, they're just, 40 years old in their mom's basement or something. No, they may be 11 years old at a library. You don't fucking know who they are. Making assumptions about the person on the other end of the screen isn't doing any good. It's doing about as much good as the person who's on the end to type in the bullshit. The reason this stuff cycles is because someone says something out of hate, or just to get a rise out of you if they're trolling. And the other person, because they can't possibly handle that attack. It's words on a screen. It's pixels on a monitor. It's binary code in the ether of the internet. It's nothing. It means nothing. I've been in plenty of heated debates on all subjects across the board, and I know the transcript of those arguments are on a server somewhere. Ain't no one ever come to me in over a decade of being on the interwebs and said, dude, that time you were discussing secular humanism versus Catholicism in a Yahoo chat room, dude, that was fucking great argument, dude. You never see that shit. You know what I mean? Like, no one is ever gonna say, here lies Grindhead Jim, was awesome at baiting trolls. Or whatever. You know what I mean? It's not gonna happen. So what's the point? What is wrong with liking what you like and not begrudging the person that likes what they like? If someone solicits you for advice, or you want to have a healthy, competent adult discussion, then that's fine. But if someone walks by and they've got a slice of pepperoni pizza, and I have a slice of mushroom pizza, become a vegetarian, I'm not going to be like, that's horrible! A pig died! Pah! Slap it out of their hands. You don't do that at GameStop, do you? Someone picked up an Xbox One game off the shelf, you get him! You don't do that shit, so what's the point? Now, have I talked to people at GameStop and said, hey, I've struck up conversations because I'm always curious why someone wants to buy something. If it's something that I don't like, I want to know why they do like it and see if I can understand it. And a lot of times I find that people buy things out of a sense of brand loyalty, or they don't know any better on something. There was a young couple that was at a GameStop, and they were going to buy a wired controller because they want to spend $40 on a Bluetooth one for a PS3 whose Blu-ray drive had failed. They used it mainly for Netflix in the bedroom. They had a new PS3 in the living room or whatever. And they're only using it for Netflix. And I said, wait a minute, you're going to spend $25 on this wired controller for that? Hang on. I went in the back and I got one of the Bluetooth. I don't work at GameStop, never have. Went in the back and I got a Bluetooth remote for it. And it's $20. I said, this is $5 less. Does exactly what you need it to do. He said, cheers, thanks, man. Because he didn't know any better. And the salesperson just heard what they had to say and said, we want a wired controller. And he got him one. That's it. That could have turned into a flame war anywhere else, I remember specifically, like with HD DVD and Blu-ray, I really thought HD DVD was a better option because at the time, they were cheaper to make, The name made more sense, to be honest, and I just thought it would be. I just thought it would make more sense. And then Porn adopted it, which was supposed to be like the big decider and everything else. But I had an HD DVD player add-on for the Xbox 360. Loved it. Bought it the day after they announced they were tanking it. I still have it. And I connect to the computer. I still use it. Love it. But I have a Blu-ray player and a PS3 and a PS4, and I love Blu-rays. I love high def. When it was all said and done, you know, the formats were so goddamn similar, it just was a matter of market saturation. Sony and their partners had it with Blu-ray. Oh well. It was not a big deal. So, ultimately, the only people you need to be loyal to are the people you love and yourself. And just be honest with yourself. If you like something, that's awesome. If your friends like something, that's awesome. Not everyone has to agree. And there's no winner, because this is the ultimate bottom line. If we're talking about this from a capitalist standpoint, whether it's gaming systems or anything else, but particularly with gaming systems, okay? If there is a clear winner and the other companies go away, there will be no competition, no innovation, no value, and shit customer service. So I say, Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, you keep going and keep trying to impress us, because, god damn it, that's how this industry, the culture that we love and live in, gets better. And if you can't understand that, fuck you, the horse you rode in on, and anything else I can think of. Because you are the problem. You stifle creativity, you stifle innovation, and you stifle intelligent conversation about a culture that deserves better. Go away and think about it. If you are a multi-console owner and you are watching this, you are doing it right. You are part of the solution. Keep supporting the companies. If an Xbox One appeals to you, get one. If a PS4 appeals to you, get one. If a Wii U appeals to you, get one. Get them all if you can afford it. If you can't, or they don't appeal to you, get what does appeal to you, what you can afford. And it's as simple as that. And if anyone other than yourself and the people you love have a problem with that, then it is their problem, not yours. At the end of the day, guys, we have to be savvy, intelligent consumers and decent human beings to one another. That is the lesson here. I realize I could have gone on a lot longer, but we're already at almost 23 minutes here, and I don't want to get too riled up. But I think we've got a good discussion going here. So, what do you think? You know, clearly we have to be loyal to ourselves first and foremost. You know, if you consider yourself a troll, a fanboy, or whatever, and you think you've got a justification for that way of life, tell me. I am really honestly curious to see if I've missed something here. And I'll tell you right now, if someone gives enough arguments that I'm like blown away, you know, I'll do a video reply for it. But go ahead. I've heard most of the arguments before. Give it a try. But as always, thank you for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Thank you for being a reasonable person. And as always, keep on grinding. Cheers, one and all.